Let's do a quick review from our previous lessons. Press pause on this video and answer these questions. When you're done, press play again and we'll go over them. What does the agent detect do? This block detects whether or not there is a block in front of your agent or beside or behind them. So it detects what is around them. Our next question asks about what a conditional is, and this is a statement that tells a program to do different actions depending on whether that condition is true or false. So if there's a block in front of them, and that's true, then maybe we have our agent destroy that block. If not, maybe we have our agent walk forward. So we call that a conditional statement there. And can the agent hold its own inventory? And this is true. All right, we are still working in our Minecraft Education Edition in our coding fundamentals, and this lesson is lesson 4, and it's the Pandas Protected Habitat lesson. And today we will use the coding concepts of loops and nested loops to complete tasks. We will also test and debug our code and embrace a coding mindset. All right, let's take a look at our important vocabulary for this lesson. First up, we have our loop, and we've been working with that right along. And we know that a loop is a structure that repeats a set of instructions or algorithms until it is told to stop. And this is important because next up is our nested loop, and that's when we have a loop inside a loop. So we'll take a look at that today as well. All right, our goal for today. The town is expanding and it's encroaching on the panda's natural habitat. We need to get the panda out of town, relocate it, and protect its new habitat. We will be concentrating on becoming more comfortable and confident in using loops. We will also extend our thinking by using nested loops, which is a loop within a loop. It will help us to do two things at the same time. So this is our spawn point where we begin our gameplay, and of course, take a look, there's Dr. Barwin. All right, so we have Dr. Barwin's message up on the screen here, and notice there's a little slider bar on the right. Remember, you can slide that up and down in order to be able to read the entire message. Once you've read the entire message, be sure to click the I'm ready box. And if you need this message read to you, remember there is an icon that looks a lot like a book in the lower right-hand corner. If you click that, that is our immersive reader. We need to find a new home for Panda. Let's follow the road to the end and search for a clearing that would be a safe place for the panda. Once you do that, you should find a perfect location for your panda. Dr. Barwin wants us to build a fence for the panda. So notice it says, let's program the agent to place a fence to keep people out of the area and to protect the panda. Press C to launch the code builder. So now we are on our first coding activity, and if you take a look here, our first task is to actually read what the coding task is, and that's up at the top of your code builder there. Remember, you can make your code builder full screen by pressing the little arrows up at the upper left-hand corner, and that'll make it full screen so you can see and read it more easily and also have more room for your coding blocks. It's very important that you read those coding tasks because it provides a lot of clues and hints and detailed instructions on how to get started in writing the code to build your fence. So if you look here, it says you will drag and drop those into the canvas. What blocks do we need? What order should the blocks be placed in? And when you're all done, you can press that green arrow. Remember, you can write your pseudocode on a piece of paper to help you plan this out before you actually start dragging and dropping your blocks. To be right with our coding mindset, remember you will have to try, test, try again, and test until you have successfully completed the code. And when you do, you'll see that activity complete message. Our second coding activity, it looks like Dr. Barwin wants to plant some bamboo around the perimeter. Hopefully this will catch the panda's interest. And of course we press C to launch our code builder. And remember, if you are on the touch screen, you are looking for that little robot icon at the top of your screen. What's nice in this activity is that the starter code is already provided for you to get you going. When you open that code builder, you'll see it there. Take a look, examine it, see if you can make sense of what that code is actually telling our agent to do. And then when you're ready, press that green button and test that code out to see what happens, see if you are correct. Now that you have seen what that code can do, I hope you read through it, made sense of it. We are ready to go on to our next part of this activity. All right, now we need to return to our code builder and finish the second part of our algorithm to finish adding the rest of the bamboo. Remember, you can make that code builder full screen by pressing the arrows in the upper left-hand corner, and make sure you are reading the instructions up there at the top. Once you are done, test out your code, see if you're correct. You may have to debug that code until you have completed this activity. For our third coding activity, we're going to make an even smaller bamboo hideaway for the panda, so it will have somewhere to eat and feel safe. The sand patch looks like a great spot. We are now going to make an even smaller bamboo hideaway for the panda, so it will have somewhere to eat and feel safe. The sand patch looks like a great spot. So now we'll take a look at our coding concept of nested loops. The agent is doing two things at the same time. It's a great way to think about our nested loops. What are the steps? Think about the first loop. What is something we need to do repeatedly for the same number of times? For the second loop, the agent needs to place bamboo along the sides of the sand. What blocks of code will the agent use? How many stalks of bamboo will the agent use? What is the agent trying to detect in this algorithm? So let's think about an example. Let's say I'm making a rectangular fence using blocks. So what I might do is go around the entire perimeter with blocks, and that'll be our first loop. Now I want to do that repeatedly. So this is where the second loop comes in. Okay, the second loop is going to tell me how many times I'm going to build that perimeter. So if I wanted my fence 4 blocks high, my second loop would need to go around 4 times. When you head back into the code builder, remember to read the coding task up at the top and that you're dragging and dropping those blocks into the canvas. And when you are complete, you press that green arrow button in the lower right-hand corner. When you test your code, you may not be successful the first time. Make sure you watch closely what your agent is doing and that you debug that code to make corrections and test again. When you are done, it'll let you know that you have completed that activity. For our fourth coding activity, we want to plant some flowers to make it a happy area for the panda to live in. We are going to use nested loops again to help us with this task. Remember, your nested loops are loops inside loops. And just like we've seen before, when we open up that code builder, we need to read those coding tasks up at the top of the screen. When you test your code, you may not be successful the first time. Just debug your code and try again. Now time for your bonus activity. How efficient is a loop? Write out the pseudocode for coding activity 3 and 4 if you did not use loops. You should be doing this on a scrap piece of paper. Remember, you can always hit pause on this video to complete this task. So let's recap what we've done today. We used the coding concepts of loops and nested loops to complete tasks. We tested and debugged our code, and we embraced that coding mindset. Let's take a couple minutes to reflect on our learning. Pause the video and answer these questions. What is the name of the block we use to make loops? What is the nested loop? True or false? It's important to know the sequence of events before building a loop. And what is the difference between a repeat loop and a conditional loop? Once you've answered these questions, you have completed lesson 4. Stay tuned for lesson 5.